Please take my puppy.
Please take my puppy. She tried to leave her dog at his door. The rich cowboy whispered, "You stay too." Northern New Mexico Territory. Winter, 1884. Midnight hush over wind-swept plains. The wind drifted low over the prairie, brushing through dry brush and brittle stalks like the quiet breath of something long forgotten. A crescent moon hung pale above the horizon, veiled by slow-moving clouds. The land stretched silent beneath it, vast, hollow, and cold. She came walking out of the darkness. Leora Dane, just 18, barefoot, beneath a pair of broken boots, trudged across the dirt path, leading toward a grand wooden gate. Her figure was thin, slight, the cotton hem of her faded dress stained with ash and old soil. An old wool sweater hung off her shoulders, full of holes. Her hair was a tangle that no comb had seen in weeks. Her lips were cracked, her breath visible in the night air. In her arms, wrapped inside a worn flour sack, was a puppy. The dog was small, cream-colored, with eyes too big for its skull. Its ribs showed through its fur. It shook violently, not from fear but from cold and hunger. Leora clutched him tighter to her chest as she stopped beneath the wooden arch of the ranch gate. Etched into the iron was a name, McLean Ranch. She had never spoken to the man who owned this land. But she had heard stories. Sawyer McLean, a Civil War cavalryman turned rancher, wealthy, alone, said to be rough but kind if you caught him right. Leora had no other choice. There was no one else in 30 miles who might take in a dying dog. Her hands trembled as she pulled a small, torn scrap of paper from her pocket. Written hastily, crooked from the pain in her fingers. "Plels, take my puppy. He's good, he's quiet. I can't feed him no more." She tied it around the dog's neck with a piece of string from her waistband. Then she crouched down, slowly, gently lowering the dog to the frosted ground just inside the fence line. The pup whined at once, trying to climb back into her arms. "No, Beans," she whispered, her voice breaking. "No, baby, you have to stay." Beans pawed at her skirt, then let out a low whimper that shattered something inside her. His eyes, round, wet, pleading, glimmered in the moonlight. She knelt, cupped his face in her chapped hands. "I am so sorry," she murmured. "I never meant to let this happen. I wanted to keep you forever." The dog whimpered louder, pressing his nose against her palm. "Listen to me," she choked, pressing her forehead to his. "If he yells, don't be scared. Just curl up and stay quiet. Eat whatever he gives you. Eat, Beans. Grow big. Be good, please." Her hands lingered, fingers splayed across his trembling ribs. "I promise. I'll come back, if I'm still breathing." Beans gave a tiny bark, barely more than air. He licked her cheek once. She leaned in, kissed the top of his narrow head, then stood, then ran. She did not look back. Her breath tore out of her lungs as her boots slapped the hard ground. Her arms wrapped around her stomach as if to hold something inside from breaking loose. Her vision blurred with the tears she had tried so hard to save. Behind her, Beans sat, tail tucked, head low, the note fluttering gently from his collar in the cold breeze. Not a single light flickered from the house at the top of the hill. But the ranch was watching. Leora had only made it a few steps from the gate when she heard it. That deep creak of wood groaning under weight, the unmistakable sound of a heavy door swinging open. Her breath caught. Her boots froze in the dust. Then came the voice. It was not loud, but it carried like thunder through the still night. "The dog cannot stay if the girl walks away." She turned, slowly, heart hammering against her ribs. A man stood beneath the shadowed porch, the lantern light behind him casting his frame in bronze and black. He was tall, broad at the shoulders, wearing a long sheepskin duster that brushed against his boots. A wide-brimmed hat shadowed most of his face, but his voice, calm, slow, firm, was already etched into her bones. He stepped down the porch steps with the heavy, deliberate grace of someone who had once moved through war. The moonlight caught the side of his face, and she saw the sharp cut of his jaw, the faint scar along his cheekbone, the gray steel of his eyes. Sawyer McLean. She had heard his name whispered like a question in town, the subject of speculation and old stories. He had fought in the cavalry, returned alone, built this ranch with his bare hands. People said he had a grave behind the barn where his wife lay buried, but no one ever asked. He didn't speak again right away. He walked past her toward the gate, then crouched down and lifted Beans gently from the cold earth. The dog whimpered softly in his arms. "He didn't want you to go," Sawyer said, eyes on the puppy. "And I have a feeling you don't want to go either." Leora's throat closed. Her fingers curled into fists. "I wasn't leaving him," she said quickly. I don't have anything left to feed him. I thought, maybe you could." Her voice broke off. She hated the sound of herself begging. "I am not asking for money," she added, quieter. "I am not trying to take advantage." He turned to face her then. Not sharply, not with judgment, with stillness. "You brought him here in the middle of the night, in the dead of winter," he said. "That tells me more than enough." She stepped back a little. Her legs trembled from the cold and the shame. "I should go," she murmured. "This was a mistake." She turned, took one step, and felt it, his hand closing gently around her wrist. Not to hurt, not to stop, just to steady. His hand was big, calloused, warm even in the chill. She tried to pull away, but his grip was firm without force. He spoke again, softer this time. "There are some gifts in this world that you don't sell, and you sure as hell don't abandon." She looked up at him. His eyes weren't angry, just tired and quiet, and maybe, just maybe, lonely. He let go of her wrist, slowly. Then, holding Beans with one arm, he gestured toward the house with a slight motion of his head. "Come inside," he said. "You look like you've been running from the devil himself." She didn't move. Her mind was screaming to flee, but her feet refused. "I don't know what you think I can offer," she said, voice barely audible. "I don't know what you want in return." He didn't flinch, just looked her square in the eye. "Maybe," he said. "I do not want anything but to not find a dead pup on my porch come morning." The silence stretched. Then, slowly, painfully, she nodded and followed him home. The kitchen was small but sturdy, built from aged pine and heavy beams. The wood stove snapped and hissed as it burned. Dim lamplight flickered against the walls, casting long shadows across the plank floor. The smell of smoke and old coffee lingered in the air. Leora sat on a low stool beside the fire, her knees drawn to her chest. Her dress was still damp at the hem. One of her boots had started to come apart at the sole. She held her hands close to the stove, though the heat made her fingertips sting. Beans lay curled in Sawyer's lap, tucked inside the warmth of his duster coat. The pup had stopped shaking. His eyes were closed now, breath slow and steady, as if the worst part of the storm had passed. Sawyer sat across from her at the table, silent. He had not asked questions. He had not offered comfort either, not in words, just warmth, shelter, firelight. She stared into the flames for a long time before she spoke. "My daddy was a carpenter," she began, voice rough from cold and sleep. "Built houses with his bare hands. Barns, too. Used to say wood talked back if you listened close enough." She glanced at the floor. Her fingers gripped the edge of her skirt. Then came the drought. Everything dried up. Land, crops, orders. One night, a spark from a stovepipe caught the shop, burned it down. Insurance man never came. After that, he started drinking. She looked up, her eyes dull but steady. And when he drank, he hit. When he didn't have money to drink, he gambled. Then he hit harder. Sawyer didn't move. Beans shifted slightly in his lap. We sold the chickens, the horse, even Mama's sewing machine. I worked where I could, scrubbing floors, hauling water for bathhouses, picking dry weeds from graves if someone paid me a coin. Her voice faltered, then steadied again. But when Mama got sick last spring, it got worse. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, her hair falling over one side of her face. She coughs blood now, can't walk, can't eat much. I traded every piece of furniture we had for medicine, half of it probably useless. I even sold. Her mouth twisted. I sold her wedding ring, just to buy firewood for a week. The words came slower now, like her body was giving out with each one. All I had left was beans. Someone gave him to me when Mama first got sick, said he'd keep her warm at night if nothing else. I never meant to give him up, not ever. Her eyes shone in the firelight, but she refused to cry. I just didn't want him to die with us. Sawyer stood slowly and walked to the counter. He poured milk into a tin mug and slid it across the table, then added a warm slice of cornbread from a cloth-wrapped bundle. Leora stared at it like it was a feast. Her hands hovered over the mug. "Thank you," she whispered. I haven't had fresh milk in months." She took a sip, closed her eyes, then bit into the bread with a quiet, disbelieving sound that bordered on reverence. Sawyer leaned back in his chair, his eyes still unreadable beneath the shadow of his brow. "I don't like asking for help," she said softly, "but I would starve before I let that dog go hungry." Then, almost as an afterthought, "I do not want anyone else touching him. He's all I have." There was silence for a long time. Sawyer looked down at the sleeping puppy in his lap. His hand moved gently along its back. Then he looked at her. "Then don't let anyone else touch him," he said quietly. "Stay, feed him, take care of him, and maybe, if you're willing, take care of yourself too." Leora blinked. No one had said that to her in years. She reached for the mug again, holding it close. And for the first time that night, her hands stopped shaking. The loft room at the end of the hall was small and slanted, its low ceiling just brushing the top of Leora's head when she stood. The walls were made of rough, dark wood.